Welcome back to another episode of Books and Beyond with that guy Jay. I am joined today by Bloodfirejeff. He is one of my mutuals over on TikTok. He is a bookish creator. He's also a touring musician, and I'm guessing so much more, but we'll learn that today as we go. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me, dude.
Now, I try and start everyone with a super easy question just to break the ice. What are you currently reading?
Quicksilver by Callie Hart.
I saw a video about that the other day. How is that going? It didn't seem like it was a great start.
Well, okay, so the preface is if you like romantasy, you're going to have a great time. If you are someone who doesn't like romantasy or thinks about things halfway critically, some shade intended in that comment, then you're not going to like it.
Yeah,
I personally don't like it.
that's kind of, the gist of I don't think I've seen a ton of positive. Um, it's been pretty mixed. Like, there's been some people who seemed into it, but I don't think your opinion is overwhelmingly against the grain.
I mean, as all of the romantasy fans would say to me, Jeff, it's not for you. And sure, maybe that's valid, whatever. But I'm a person and I can read any book that I want. I it's just every trope, it's every romantasy trope like squished into one 600-page book that's very confused about what it's doing. Like, the plot is fairly coherent. The best thing about it is it's actually paced really well. Like, the pacing is so good. There's like no lulls, which is fine. The problem is that creates she's constantly changing her stakes and introducing more and more elements to keep it from ever having a lull. And I was like, so maybe we're struggling with dynamics here because we're kind of just constantly trending upwards. But yeah, it's very tropey. The language is incredibly contemporary. There's more swearing than like, I don't know, an episode of The Sopranos in it. It's the characters aren't likable. It's pr typical romantasy stuff. Like, I don't wanna beat a dead horse, but I'm not enjoying it.
I mean, I wonder why you're powering through it. Is it just to finish, or you're not a DNFer? Because I'm new to the DNFing game
So
myself.
it's twofold. One, I don't ever I DNF nothing. Um, I like to be an informed hater, and if I'm going to critique a book on my account, I have to have read it. I don't believe in getting 150 pages in and being like, "This book sucks." I'm like, "No, I'm gonna read the whole thing so that I can speak to the book holistically." Part point 5 of that is that my mama didn't raise no quitter, so I finish everything, and also I have a policy which has bitten me more than once, where if someone gifts me a book, I will read it,
Yeah.
and someone gifted me Quicksilver, so
I've only DNF'd 2 books ever, and they were both this year.
mm.
And
Oh, really?
the first one was, an old sci-fi called Ringworld,
Okay.
and it was a very cool concept, but one of the issues I have with older sci-fi is they're fairly often very misogynistic,
Mm.
and, like, this one has a main character who has a woman with him for this journey, and her sole purpose is just to be like, "You're so awesome and hot, and I'm here to sleep with you," and it's like,
Yeah.
just blatantly, like, calling out her dumbness, and it was like, "This isn't very fun."
Yeah.
And so I DNF'd that, and then a lot of people, were a little bit mad about this one, but I also DNF'd Lonesome Dove about 500 pages in. It just, ended up not being for me.
If it ain't for you, it ain't for you, man.
And I tried. It's such a long book. Like, if it was only 500 pages, I would've just read the whole thing and been done. Even if it was, like, 700, I probably would've pushed through, but
Yeah, 500 pages, I think, is, like, only half or, like,
it is.
slightly over, but
I think it's, like, 960 pages, so I was just about halfway, but I realized I just didn't care about any of the characters.
yeah.
And I even said to one of my friends, I was like, "At this point, I wish I hated one of them because, like, then at least I'd be invested." But it's like, I just don't care. Like,
I feel that way about Red Rising. I don't hate read Red Rising, but I definitely read Red Rising hoping that bad things are gonna happen to Darrow. And they do, and a lot of them are at his own hand or, he's a victim of his own stupidity or ignorance quite often. Nothing is ever as severe as I wish it was, but that's alright.
yeah. Red
Makes it more fun
Rising
to
is
root against him.
I enjoyed the first 3 books. Um,
Mhm. That's as far as I've gotten.
I've read the 4th, and I had a hard time transitioning to the multi-POV
Mhm.
just because I feel like I was so established. I mean, at that point where what gotta be 12 to 1,500 pages into just Darrow's POV.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a little bit of whiplash, but it was good. I'm taking a long break before I continue the series because it got real sad. Like, it just everything bad was happening, and it's like, there's not a whole lot to really grasp onto here, like and
Yeah.
again, it's all Darrow's fault.
Mhm.
It's 100% his choices.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
one thing I find interesting with what you said about Quicksilver is I worry that this is a trend going forward with books is that it feels like a lot of authors are writing to tropes more than plot, specifically because tropes have become such a big marketing point,
Yeah.
especially with BookTok and BookTube for that matter.
Yeah.
Just reviewers in general is like tropes are very easy to talk about in a 60 to 90-second review.
Mhm.
And you're not the only person that has said that some of these new books are very trope heavy.
And there's such an interesting thing about that where in the video where I was being humorously harsh about Quicksilver because of some ridiculous anachronisms in the book, um, a lot of people are just like, "Hey, smooth brain vibes only. It's all about vibes. It's not about it being good. It's about it being fun." And I'm like, "I don't understand." Like, and a lot of people have just told me, they're like, "We like it because it's familiar. It's like a warm blanket. We know what it is. They're gonna be enemies to lovers. They're going to pretend to hate each other until they, do the horizontal mambo, and then it changes." And it's kind of like an emotional journey by paint by numbers. And I think there's a predictability and a comfort in that. Like, my wife, whom I adore, watches the same movies and shows over and over and over and over because they're familiar. She knows it's going to happen. They're comforting for her. And I think this is scratching that itch in the romantasy demographic where they aren't interested in development in romantasy storytelling. They're interested in seconds and third and fourth helpings of the same stories, just swap out the pronouns. Oh, sometimes, they're vampires. Sometimes they're fae. Sometimes, she's an assassin and sometimes she's a hunter girl from the woods. Like, but basically all of the action and plot points are the same. Like, a lot of what happens in Quicksilver is very reminiscent of what happens in ACOTAR. I mean, there's some broad strokes there that I'm painting, and there's some minutia that doesn't line up, but I don't know. I find it a a bold choice for someone to read some of these books and tell me that they're well written. I mean, by far, of all of the romance stuff that I've read, Rachel Gillig is the best, and even she has a lot of speed bumps. And
Yeah.
so I think it just is what's happening, and a lot of the fans have said this to me, is that these are romance first, fantasy second. And I'm like, then just skip the fantasy part of it. Because again, I'm not the intended audience. I'm not who Rachel Gillig's looking for, or Callie Hart, or Rebecca Yarros, or Sarah J. Maas. They're not like, Jeff, that's who I need to read my book. But, as someone who is well versed in fantasy, who has a wife, so clearly I know something about romance, it's like these aren't romantic. They're not good romance and they're not good fantasy. And so you're just kind of mashing a circle into a hole, and it doesn't really work. It I don't know. But I like you said, there's a very strong pull on these to be repeatable and marketable because it's a proven formula. Like, if female main character Jessica, who has a crappy attitude and thinks she knows better than everyone because she has some emotional damage from being a child, meets up with tall, dark, handsome warrior of the shadows and mist who also has an attitude problem and never treats anybody nicely, or her or himself or anyone, but occasionally shows that he has a tender spot to some people when he thinks nobody is looking, boom, sells a million copies all of the time because eventually they're going to kiss. Eventually they're going to become inseparable after having known each other for 6 weeks. And then, like, sparks fly. And I don't get it. It doesn't make sense. But as I'm being repeatedly told, it's not about it making sense. It's about it being fun.
Yeah, I found that I'm very new to romance genres in general. As of last year is like the first time I really read any. In the 2000s, I read some Nicholas Sparks books, like, I think 2 of them just because
I've seen
they were
the book.
yeah, they were huge in, like, 2006, so I tried a couple. But one of my biggest complaints with romance is I don't like people call it insta love, or in spicier books, I use the term insta bone. It's just not interesting, like, I don't want the characters to be in love within the first 5 seconds they meet, like, there's no tension, there's no I feel like it's really hard to progress a story that way when they're already instantly in love.
Mhm,
It's just like, if you were reading fantasy and the young hero knew exactly how to use his powers in the first 30 pages and was the best in the world, it's like, well, that would be pretty boring, like,
mhm.
there's no buildup, there's nothing that you're working towards.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
I guess
I've
sorry.
only read a little bit of romantasy, but, I do also find it very interesting when people say that they just wanna turn their brains off to read, because reading inherently is your brain not being off, and at least for me.
Right.
And I tend to think of I keep going I've mentioned this a couple times on the podcast, but I saw Jason Segel recently in an interview where he was talking about writing Forgetting Sarah Marshall, and I believe it was Judd Apatow that was like, "Write a drama. You're a funny person. This story of heartbreak and you getting dumped will inherently be funny because that's who you are. But
Mhm,
the drama is that's what will keep people interested. And then, like, if you need me to help you, I'll jazz up some jokes for you."
mhm,
And I feel like in great fantasy, like right above me is Robin Hobb books, and there's elements of romance within her books, and but it's very much a fantasy story first. And it's just like, I think any good book in any genre, it can have all of the elements. It can have love, it can have enemies, it can have all of these things. And when it's crafted well, it's gonna have all aspects of humanity. And love and
right.
romance is part of humanity. But it's like, I fully agree with what you were saying, where it does feel like some of these are very much written with the idea of love and falling in love being the main thing. And it's like, we get that out of the way and then the rest is just vibes.
Mhm. It's very much like it feels like a Mad Libs kind of gone wrong. But basically, yeah, it's like character X will meet character Y after X many pages, they will fall in love. Drama happens at some point in there. Their relationship or one of their lives is threatened. They overcome it through usually sheer willpower, which makes no sense, or severe magical interference. And then all is good and nobody learns anything. Like they don't ever apologize for being crappy to each other or anything like that. And the thing that gets me the most about these is that these people vehemently dislike each other at the beginning of the book. And then they don't ever do anything nice to each other, but apparently they fall in love while pretending to hate each other sheerly through like osmosis. Just by being forced to be around each other, they fall in love with people they spend all the time being like, "Oh, I hate that guy." And I'm like, that's not how anything works, you know? Like if people's husbands or wives talked to them the way that characters in these books talk to the characters that are supposed to be them, no, that would not fly 100%.
And the
Like,
divorce rate would be at like 95%.
but I guess that's like part of like the fantasy part of it, right? Is like, they're living vicariously through someone with 3 brain cells, but a lot of spunk. And I don't know. I'm being very harsh about it because I'm being tortured. I've only got like
Could
40
be, yeah.
left, but I'm
You're not
almost.
having a good reading week because of this.
Um, the thing that I really enjoy about reading books that I don't like is that I'm gonna make a really good video at the end. When I'm done, I'm really gonna make a good video about how much this book stinks. But I'm
Well,
gonna try to
and then
frame it in a way that's positive and intelligent and not me just, like, hucking it into a corner and being like, "Toilet paper," you know?
that's a fun way to look at it, because you're still getting something from the book, even if it's not enjoyment. You're getting motivation and you are getting feelings. They're just not positive ones.
Yeah. The thing that gets me is so many specifically with Quicksilver, is everyone's like, "Oh my god, the banter is so good," plus obviously the sweaty parts, but I'm like, what banter? This book is not funny. These people are not funny. No one says any funny thing to each other. I think I've laughed twice in 540 pages. And I'm like, this I don't get it. The banter is just the two love interests being mean to each other. They're either being mean to each other or they're lying and deceiving each other openly. And they're like, the banter. I'm like, what banter? It's not banter.
Yeah,
It's not banter.
that doesn't sound like banter. And I do agree with people who like banter because I think banter is very fun. An example of a dark romance that I read that I think had good banter was Butcher and Blackbird. I read that last year, and I was pleasantly surprised by 2 things. 1, it was a slow burn, and nobody talks about that. Like,
Mm, I've heard that.
nothing romantic happened until, like, maybe 60-70% in, and 2, the whole time that it was building to that was fantastic banter, and that made the payoff worth it, and then there was actually buildup to the payoff, and then,
Mm,
I mean, it got real spicy, like, borderline my comfort levels because 'cause I'm
I've heard that book
still
is
new with
spicy.
this. Yeah. But I finished that one, I ended up rating it 4 stars, and I was like, "I am shocked at how good this was." It was some of the darker parts, like the serial killer aspects were a little bit silly because they were cartoonish with, um, how out there it was, but it worked in the setting, but, like, there was good banter, there was good buildup, it was a slow burn, they didn't instantly love each other. They did hate each other at first, but then things actually did happen that make sense why they would like each other. It wasn't just like, "We like each other because that makes the plot move forward."
Yeah. And generally, yeah, these books, they like each other because they have to, otherwise the book makes no sense. And it's
Yeah.
like, that's not how life works. But
Now you mentioned being well-versed in fantasy, so what is your reading journey? Have you always been a reader since you were a kid? Has fantasy always been kind of your jam?
fantasy has always been my jam. And I've been a reader for as long as I can remember. I was one of those star students who really was good at like, I don't know if they had like the accelerated reader program when you were in elementary school, where you would read the book and then you'd take this online test, and if you got enough points, you get like a Pizza Hut coupon. I was really good at that. I read all the Harry Potter books. I used to read all the Roald Dahl books. Like when I was a child, I loved to read. I loved books. And then when I got older, I got into video games and really latched on to specifically like fantasy or medieval style video games. And then, well, like Lord of the Rings came out when I was in the sixth grade, and that hooked. Like that was uh, signed, sealed, delivered. That's my favorite thing ever. And I think Harry Potter came out around the same time. Then we had the Chronicles of Narnia very shortly after that as a movie. And so there just was a lot of good fantasy media when I was younger. I'm not sure how old you are, but I'm 35. And there was just a lot of that good media when I was growing up through high school, I guess. And so yeah, I've always been a consistent reader. And then in college, it kind of dipped because academic reading. It's like, hey, here, read what's the worst thing I read in college? I don't know, Crime and Punishment, maybe. But I think like as an adult, I would like that now. Or, like some F. Scott Fitzgerald book that I was not ready for, or William Faulkner or something. People who are 19 years old should not be forced to read William Faulkner. It does not work. Um, and then, I was a theater kid, so I used to read a lot of plays and get a lot of stories and drama and stuff that way. There's not a lot of good fantasy plays, unfortunately, but Shakespeare gets pretty close with something like A Midsummer Night's Dream with the fairies and stuff.
Yeah, that's valid.
And then, um, there was a couple year break there where I was really busy with, like, music and live stuff, so I wasn't reading a ton, and then in the last 5 years or so, I really got back into reading a lot, and then I stumbled upon I haven't been on TikTok for that long. I think I started a TikTok account in, like, 2022, and then stumbled up across, like, book content. I was, like, shook that people were, like, making book content. I was like, "Oh, I could do that. That's easy." And then in, like, the fall of 2023, I think, is when I started doing book content, um, and so from there, I've read a ton, but, yeah, I've always loved fantasy. Love pretty much all types of fantasy. I don't like dark academia, I'll say that, depending on when the dark academia is fantasy-ish, but typically it is. I don't think I've read a sci-fi dark academia, but I, don't love a dark academia, but everything else, I'm pretty much on board with.
If this is my first year this fall, I'm trying Dark Academia because I haven't really read a ton of it. I think the only one that I've read that would be considered Dark Academia before this year is probably, Babel by R.F. Kuang.
Sure, yeah, that's one of the peak ones that everyone mentions. I guess Catabasis is too.
Yeah, I haven't even picked that one up yet. I have this huge issue where I really prefer paperbacks,
Mhm.
and you have to wait like a year to
Yeah, all
get
the
a
hot books
paperback
are on
here.
hardback first. I'm like, "That's
So
not
it's like my bookshelf is super mixed because some of them I wanted to get as soon as they came out, but it's like I would really prefer a paperback.
yeah."
And someone recently recommended, apparently, if you order them from the UK, they have paperbacks right away. And it's like, that's such a better world. I like that. I wish it was like that here. I wish they gave us the choice because a lot of people would still buy hardcovers and they
Mhm.
do look prettier on a bookshelf, but I hate them in hand because I read one handed for the most part. And
Yeah.
hardcovers are just not comfortable.
Yeah, exactly. It's like they look nice on the shelf, but the actual experience of, like, holding a hardback and reading it is terrible. And yeah, I
And
always
then
take
I'm,
this jacket off because
me
I
too.
don't like to hold it, and, like, they're always that,
And,
like, glossy material, like,
and then it slides a little bit as you're
oh,
holding it.
yep.
And I'm a big lover of mass markets, which everybody hates on those, but,
No, I love
um,
them.
they're my
9
favorite.
bucks for a paperback? Let's go.
And also, I used to live and work in Manhattan. I'm
Mm,
just outside the city now, but, like, I would take the train every day, and usually I had a backpack. I didn't need one because I could throw a mass market in a hoodie pocket, in the back of my jeans pocket, like, because I wasn't going anywhere in the city without a book.
right.
Because public transportation is like, you get delays, you end up taking too long, or
Mhm.
going to work and it ends up being a boring day. It's like, "Alright, I have a book. You guys be bored. I'm good."
Yeah. Yeah, I love mass market paperbacks, mostly because I grew up, financially challenged a little bit, and so that's what I got a lot as a kid. Like, if I requested a book, I invariably got, like, the crappy mass market paperback, so I gravitate towards those because sometimes I'll walk around Barnes& and Noble or Books A Million, and I'm like, $22 for a paperback? Are you crazy? Like,
It is wild.
oh.
It is wild. My Barnes& and Noble has one section of one shelf that they call fantasy and sci-fi, and it happens to be all mass markets.
That's
And
great.
that's the first place I go every time I go there because I'm like, I will happily I've just bought, the first book in the Dresden Files last week for $9.
I was just thinking, I was like, "Mass market, it's gotta be Dresden." I was like,
But it's like,
"Storefront."
these up here, the Robin Hobb books,
Mhm.
Assassin's Apprentice and, the first 3, the first trilogy,
Yeah.
in the '90s, they're such classic '80s/90s fantasy covers, and I feel like back then, most genre fiction was mass market, and they were so freaking cool. The art was amazing,
Yeah.
and I feel like that is something that's missing in the modern era of books because, greed. But, um, the publishers wanna make as much as they can, which I do get that everybody needs to get paid, but
Mhm.
it is crazy. You look at some of these, like, I have 2 novellas, and I absolutely love this series or I wouldn't have them. But it's The Monk and Robot by Becky Chambers, Psalm for the Wild Built. They're like $18 each, and they're 150 pages each, and it's because 'cause they're hardcover, and it's like, that's terrible.
Don't
It's
know.
terrible. The books are so good, though, that I have reread A Psalm for the Wild Built, like, 3 or 4 times, so I'm getting my money's worth, but, like,
Yeah.
I very reluctantly paid that. That's not like, in no way should that make sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I love them. 'Em. They're nostalgic, they fit in your pocket, and like, a lot of times they have the worst art, which makes them way more fun.
Yeah.
It's like so hold on. So, where is it? So I have the, Mistborn in the mass market.
Me too.
This is crap. This is the crappiest art. It means nothing. It tells you nothing about anything, but I'm like, I like them because they suck. It's like
I
I
have
0 cents.
Mistborn Era 1 and Era 2
Mhm.
in mass market, and I have shoot, was it 3 or 4 books from, the Stormlight Archive also
I
in
have the
mass market.
Stormlight, like, the first 3 box set of the mass
Yeah,
market,
that think that's what I have too.
just
Those
in your
get tricky to
pocketbook.
read because those are thick.
Yeah, you gotta, like, "How do I read this?" But yeah,
What's
I
that?
like them.
I watched, there's a creator on BookTok, CJ Talks Books.
Uh-huh, yeah.
He's been on the podcast before too, but he breaks in his books where he'll have them vertical, and then he'll fold down each page on each
Oh,
side
like
so that
10
the spine
pages at a
doesn't
time
break.
or whatever. Yeah.
I try to do that, but I get impatient, and then I start doing, like, 5 pages at a time, so I don't know if it helps or not, but I usually attempt it, and then also I just don't crack the spine too heavily.
Yeah, I don't ever run across that. Like, are these cracked?
I like when they're mildly worn because you can tell that it's been read.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm not sitting there, like, cranking on my book, I just flip the page and read it, but, yeah, I've seen some people who are just like, "Let's just get it out of the way, snap," and I'm like, "Ah."
Books are sick.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
had that one viral video where he broke the spine so bad pages started falling out.
yeah, yeah.
That yeah, I think that there really is something missing with the mass markets, the art, the whole format where they got away from trade paperbacks are also nice, but
Mhm,
the cost is just a little I do try and buy as much as I can secondhand.
mhm.
Books lose value real heavily, so that's always nice. Like,
I'm
I
gonna
have
work
a
the
full
mark paper for buy.
yeah, I have a full set of matching books of, Aragon, and I found them at a thrift store for, like, 50 cents each. That's really cool. The paperback ones where the spine has, like, a picture that matches up and everything like that.
I love those.
I'm a later in life fantasy person. I didn't really get into I'm a little bit older than you. I'm 41.
Okay.
And so, like, I feel like I was right at the age of being slightly too old for Harry Potter to be cool.
Yeah.
So, like, I missed that train, and I did love Lord of the Rings, though, but I was always, like, as a kid, sci-fi was my thing, in particular, Star Trek. Like, I was
Ooh,
way more of a Star Trek guy than Star Wars guy, and I didn't read as a kid. In high school, I just, like, I made it my whole personality to be like, "Reading is dumb," and I even told my English teacher about it. I was like, "I'll never read a book after I finish college," and then it's like,
here
here
you are.
I have a podcast talking about books every week.
Yeah.
But Game of Thrones is actually what got me into fantasy, and I think it's probably my most read genre now every year consistently for probably since season 1 came out, everyone was talking about it, and I was like, "Alright, I gotta read the books first because that's just who I am as a person."
Mhm,
And I devoured the books, and I was like, "Oh, turns out maybe fantasy is real cool."
mhm.
And
Yeah,
I've loved it ever since. And there's so much good fantasy in the last 20 years.
the thing that I think I like so much about the fantasy community, and this goes a lot for, the sci-fi community as well, is that, like, it's hard to be bad and get any headway in fantasy. Like, I think we not, like, have too high of a standard, but we have an anticipated level, I think, of execution as far as writing goes, and if, like, somebody tries to push something that sucks, we're like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 like, that book sucks, it's derivative," you know? So I
Yeah.
think we are can be, as a community, gatekeepers, which is not awesome, but at the same time, I think it works because there's so much good fantasy being written right now, like, and I think we're a part of that. It's like we don't buy the stuff that sucks. So,
Yeah, and I think that's a cool aspect of book talk in particular too, with the rise of book talk in the last probably, what, 3, 4 years.
mhm,
It's given a lot of authors more visibility to get more copies of their work out, and,
mhm,
you know, fantasy is also expanding into other cultures, which is really fun to see, like reading Asian-inspired fantasy or, even African-inspired fantasy, and I was talking to I forget which guest recently about this, but it's so cool for me to see that in every culture, dragons have existed,
mhm,
but, like, once you get away from the Eurocentric, it's like the dragons become different, it's a whole different thing. Like,
yeah,
it's still a dragon, but it's like, we have grown up knowing about dragons in the Eurocentric medieval way our whole life, and it's like, "Oh, cool, let me read The Rage of Dragons," and it's this whole new thing. Like, it's
mhm,
kinda similar, but, like, we're talking different dimensions now and whole different aspects to it, and I think
and
Book Talk has allowed a lot of this.
mhm, for sure. Yeah, there's something that's in general, I'm not a person who considers the internet to overall be like a net positive. I think the internet does a lot more damage than a lot of good in a lot of places. But there is something cool about so many people having a platform that gives indie authors, small publishers far more viewership than they would have otherwise. Some of that's negative in that like people pay for reviews and I do see a handful of reviewers out there who I've never seen say anything critical about anything they've ever had on their channel. I'm like, okay, so you're just like gassing people up all the time. That's fine. I mean, if that's your prerogative, that's whatever. But like Book Talk, um, I'm sure you're familiar with Emma Skies.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, love Emma. If Emma ever sees us, hi, love you. I found Samantha Shannon through Emma, The Prior of the Orange Tree specifically, and that is one of, if you've not read it, you absolutely should read it because it is a phenomenal 5 out of 5 read. And that book really perfectly typifies that East versus West dragon thing, where in the West it's very Eurocentric. It's kind of a white medieval culture where they spend all their time talking about how to kill dragons. And then there's, a not even secondary, like main character B is in an Eastern culture where they live in harmony with the dragons and the dragons bestow magic upon them and those worlds clash and stuff. And it's just amazing to see that, like, yeah, even with the Evan Winters stuff, like dra- I did not know before Rage of Dragons that dragons were a part of African culture. I didn't.
Yeah, me either.
It's crazy.
Yet Emma Skies is actually one of the early book talk accounts that I came across.
So,
I was an early adopter of TikTok as like an entertainment platform for me to watch. I was a consumer for years. I have a cousin, and she is a good amount younger than me. She's 28. And I think it was like the end of 2019. She was like, download TikTok so I can send you memes. And
mhm,
I was like, got it. And that's what it was for years. And then it was like a lot of pandemic stuff. There was a lot of creators who blew up for doing just fun stuff throughout, being locked up at home. And then I think it was around 2022, I came across Book Talk, and I wasn't reading as actively for a few years. And I was like, you know what? I should get back into this. And I just used Book Talk as a way to build my TBR. And I came across like Emma Skies and um, Evan Lycum.
mhm,
And I'm trying to think who else. There's a couple others that were really like, I only had like 4 or 5 accounts at first, like
yeah,
maybe even like the first 6 months, and still even blew up my TBR just from them. And they were all so fantastic at expanding my horizons in terms of what I was reading, because I struggled after Game of Thrones because, like, I didn't know a lot of fantasy, and I was like, "What do I read next?" And that's how I ended up with Robin Hobb. After I finished Game of Thrones for, like, the 3rd time, I was like, "What to re" I went to Google, and I was like, "What do I read after Game of Thrones?" It's like, went to Reddit and found someone who was like, "Oh, if you like those vibes, check out The Realm of the Elderlings." And I was like, "Okay,
mhm.
got it."
Yeah, slow
And
build, a lot of character stuff for sure.
yeah, and I think also I think George and Robin Hobb both actually, despite the fact that their work is more medieval and Eurocentric in theory, I think they lean into a little bit more of, like, the mysticism of, like, they don't have hard magic systems. There
Mhm,
aren't as like, Brandon Sanderson is very much like, the rules of the magic system are A, B, C, and D. These
mhm.
are the rules, this is how it works. Very few things are gonna break those rules.
Yeah,
Whereas, like, I've noticed in a lot of Eastern culture and even South American culture, it's almost more like magical realism,
mhm.
where it's a little bit more like, spirits and powers that are inherited and not everyone fully understands why or how.
Yeah, you
And
work
it's
with
like,
them rather than like,
yeah,
you know,
fully
magic
controlling them. And it's like
casting spells and stuff, yeah.
George and Robin, I think both kind of did a little bit of that. Like, there was magic in Game of Thrones, but not a ton, and no one fully understood it.
Mhm.
And I would say that,
Especially like Melisandre, I can't really think of very many people who, like, used magic.
yeah, when there was the whole White Walkers that no one understood, and then
Yeah.
there was Valerian steel and civilizations that came before them that I think had magic that they don't understand.
Mhm,
And then in the realm of the Elderlings, they have the wit, and it's like people kind of get it, but not fully,
mhm.
because it's so like you're not supposed to do it.
Right. Yeah,
But
that, yeah.
I think there's something very cool to that. Like, as much as I do enjoy Brandon Sanderson, I've found that the softer magic systems I think are a little bit more fun.
The thing I like about the hard magic systems is the magic system itself becomes a character. It becomes like its own piece being moved around the chessboard of the story, whatever it will, and it allows me to imagine what's going to happen next, knowing what the magic is or is not capable of. And so that's fun, but I don't think hard magic systems are often pulled off very well. They're too specific. They're at like they either have to be so granular as to be unfun, or just like the strictness of them doesn't leave a lot of room for improvisation, interpretation. Like speaking on what you said, like Lord of the Rings is a soft magic system. There is
Yeah.
magic. Gandalf does magic. You like very rarely ever see him like cast a spell. Sometimes he like gibbers in Elvish for a little bit, and he just does things. He just does magic. The elves have magic, the Maiar have magic. Magic exists. Magic is like technically music in Tolkien's world. So like or like magic is there. A lot of people can interact with it. It's different depending on who you are. And nobody ever questions like, how does he do that? They're just like stuff happens. And so
Yeah.
often, like I think one of my favorite things, this is kind of tangential, but one of my favorite things about Gandalf, and I'm gonna speak to the movies instead of the books because that's what most people are familiar with. The amount of times he actually uses magic to influence a situation is like a handful
Yeah.
over 12 hours of movies. Most of the time, he's just there helping people plan and execute and watching over people. Like aside from when he casts Saruman out of Theoden and he like speaks to the little moth, that's not magical, but it's cool. Or when he's doing his wizard fight with um Saruman, he doesn't do a whole ton of magic. It mostly is just like being around, watching over everyone, and having mystic wisdom or whatever, which I think is fun. That they don't lean on that.
Yeah, I think there's pitfalls in both. I think that with hard magic, you do run the risk of becoming sort of info dumpy because there's so many rules within it if you do it incorrectly.
Uh-huh.
Um, because you really want your reader to know all of the rules of this magic system you created. And I
Mhm.
think on the other end, with softer magic systems, you run the risk of if you don't write it carefully, then it kind of feels like, oh gosh, I always forget the term. Was it like Dos Ex Machina?
Sex Machina,
Where
yeah.
yeah, where it's like you run the risk of, like, you get through 90% of the book, and then all of a sudden the character discovers this one magical thing that saves the day. So it's like there are definitely pitfalls with both, but I found myself, enjoying the soft magic systems more. I think because, at least in my reading experience, they've lined up with very character-driven stories, which is my preference. So that's probably a lot of it as well. It's just for me, it fits the type of stories that I enjoy.
Yep.
But I think Brandon Sanderson is somebody that does hard magic systems well. I think that
Yep.
for the most part, he explain Mistborn is a little bit telling, not showing.
He's pretty
I think
heavy-handed with it in Mistborn, at least in, like, specifically the first book where he's
yeah,
really explaining how this works. I was like,
yeah,
"If I hear the word burn, extinguish, push, or pull one more time,
yeah.
I'm gonna throw this book in the toilet." Like, I'm
What's
so sick of it.
I saw a TikTok recently where someone made the case that Mistborn is YA, and looking back at it, and I'm like, yeah, kind of. I can
Yeah, I can
see
see
that
that.
argument because of Vin's age, because of the way that the magic is kind of explained and not, it's told, not showed.
Mhm.
I was like, yeah, I could get down with that if this got categorized as YA. And it's not a bad thing. I've read some great YA.
If it gets
So
more people into Sanderson or into fantasy, call it YA. I don't care.
yeah. Yeah, but I think that's something that he's gotten better at,
Mhm.
with the Stormlight Archive and some of his more recent works where it's less, "Let me tell you how this works," and you learn as you go, which I think is more fun.
Yeah, and I think speaking on what you said, the cool thing about books with soft magic systems is, in my experience, the magic system is not what defines the story. Whereas in something like Mistborn, it's you can't really separate the story or the plot from the magic system. Like the fact that she is Mistborn, or the people have their magic abilities based on whatever their metal is, you can't separate the two. Like the magic system is in it like its own character in the story. Whereas in something like Assassin's Apprentice, the skill is there, the wit is there, and they are things that help define Fitz or Verity or whoever you're speaking about, but they aren't like the driving thing. And I haven't
Right.
I haven't read enough of the Realm of the Other Wings to speak on that as a whole, but at least in the bits that I've read, they're they're features of, but they're not the point. Whereas I feel like the magic in Mistborn is kind of the point.
Yeah, I would fully agree with that.
Yeah.
And I do, and again, it's a preference thing. There's nothing wrong with Brandon Sanderson. I don't think I think he's a great entry point into fantasy.
Mhm.
For the he does have I think he gets a little bit too much hate for his prose. I think people
Oh,
make it sound a lot of people say it's too simple, and they make it seem like you're reading, like, a 5th grade level book, and it's like, no, he just isn't overly flowery. I think that he's very good at communicating what he wants to do, and he does it in a super, like, approachable way. I would almost argue that part of that is just kind of because he writes in a newer style. He doesn't write as descriptive as Tolkien, and he doesn't write as flowery as some of, like, the '80s fantasy was very kind of I mean, attempting medieval language in some
mhm.
ways, you know,
Yeah,
it's like
Sanderson's not lyrical at all. Whereas, like, if you crack open, like, Eye of the World or, Robin Hobb or, George R. R. Martin to some points, like, George R. R. Martin is very he's so weird. Sometimes he has that lyrical element depending on the character, but other times it's just, like, rusty iron straight to the bone, so
yeah.
direct and brutal in the language. It's so that was kind of not a great example, but yeah, yeah, Robin Hobb, she's very lyrical, very flowy, a lot of elegant descriptions. Tolkien, very flowy, a lot of elegant descriptions. Sanderson doesn't really do that. I think that's what makes him accessible. Honestly, that's probably a big factor to his success is that he is easy to read.
And I think that was 100% a choice that he made because I after reading thousands of pages of his work, I there's no part of me that thinks he's incapable of writing more like Robin Hobb if he wanted to. He likes to make the message very clear and make I think he likes to make it very also from a business perspective, it it does make sense to have mass appeal.
Yeah.
It's why and this is something that you could probably speak to more than me, it's why a lot of bands, once they become more popular, get accused of being less heavy, especially in, metal and rock senses where they sold out, and it's like, well, they're selling to a larger audience now, they want more mass appeal, and it's like, are they less heavy? Probably, but, like, from the business side of things, you can understand that.
Melody sells records, man. If you don't
Yeah,
got a hook, you ain't selling records. And so, yeah, you could have, the tightest riffs or the heaviest album or whatever. The heaviest bands are not headlining stadiums, like,
yeah,
so it depends on, what you wanna do with your career trajectory or what, how to best represent, yourself through your art. But, like, for example, Ghost, whom I adore, and people tell me all the time is not a metal band. And I'm like, I don't care. And okay, I would disagree with you, but also like it doesn't matter because they're probably the biggest rock band on the planet right now and have been for 10 years. Like, okay, like you and your argument can go play in the playground by yourself because I'm going to go to the concert. Like,
yeah,
so it's fine. Or like I see the Sleep Token album behind you. Is Sleep
yeah.
Token metal? Does it matter? Who cares? They're selling a million records. They're doing huge tours and people love them. It doesn't matter. They have heavy moments and then they have moments that I think they stole from Sam Smith. It doesn't matter. Like it's yeah, so yeah, like it's so dumb. It doesn't matter. But absolutely like your hookiness, your melody, your accessibility, absolutely. Like there's a reason death metal is an underground genre.
Yeah.
Is because it's like some sounds like someone put, like some ground beef in a brick in a blender. And that's by design. They love that. That's what they like. But that's not, selling stadiums.
Yeah, that's a lot of the metal that my daughter likes. She's 16, and I think she's grown out of it a little bit. When she was, like, 14, all of anything she wanted to listen to is, like, she wanted it to sound like the noises a pig would make. Like, she wanted that really guttural sound,
Mhm.
and she's also gotten, like, really heavy into, like, The Cure the last couple years, and
That's just part of puberty, hormones, high
yeah, it's
school.
like she doesn't like Sleep Token, she'll tease me about it a little bit. They're not my favorite ever, but, like, that was the, record I was listening to on my last live,
Mhm.
because I have a record player right here, new setup for when I go live, but I enjoy them a lot too because there's a decent variety in their sound, um, I think Vessel has a great voice, and I think a lot of the stuff is very fun.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
think more than anything, I don't think that they would call themselves a metal band. I don't know why. It
Um,
seems like a lot of metal fans get really hung up on calling them out for not being metal, and it's like, I don't think they ever tried to be. I don't think they ever claimed to be.
yeah, genre is a dumb thing. Like, there's something where I think music transcends genre far more than, like, film or books do, because I just think it's easier to double or triple dip musically, where, like, books, it's really hard to be a good fantasy book and a good sci-fi book at the same time, like, very rarely do I see books that are multiple things, like, Between Two Fires, I think, is a good horror book. I also think it's a pretty good fantasy book. So, like, very rarely you get crossover, but in music, it's just so much easier. Where, like, they have the extended range guitars with the extreme down tunings. They have the syncopated prog riffs, but then they also have, like, like the synth pop passages, and you're like,
Yeah.
that's not something a metal band would typically do. So, if anything, Sleep Token is like a pop band that has metal influences in, or even like prog or gent or whatever you want to call it. But, like, also it doesn't matter. Like, it's
Yeah,
the book.
I for one have always had a tough time with any rock music where I've never paid enough attention to subgenres where when people talk about different, it's like, "Oh, what type of metal do you like?" And I'm like, "I don't know, the ones that sound good to me in that moment." Like, I do listen to a lot of metalcore.
Mhm.
I've discovered that, but it's like it's not like a conscious choice. And also, there's so many subgenres I can't keep up with them. Like, I don't know the
Yeah.
differences between all of them.
In music, specifically in metal, in my opinion and experience, genre exists as an excuse to gatekeep. Generally, you could be like metal, not metal, and move on, and everyone's happy. But some people are like, oh no, you're not true Norwegian black metal. Like, bro, nobody is. Who cares? It doesn't matter.
No, it's true black metal is for so few people, and if every band tried to be that, they would not go anywhere with their life,
Yeah.
Like, that's a very small niche,
Mhm.
and more power to everyone who does like it,
Mhm.
and, like, I can understand the appeal of pretty much all of it, and it's like, but I also don't I'm not a musician, so this is probably a better question for you, but, like, I don't think anyone wants to put themselves in a hole like that creatively, where you have to stick to one genre.
It's very useful when you're starting out to pigeonhole yourself into a specific niche or a smaller subgenre, because it gives you not like cred or clout, but if a new band comes out and they're like, "Oh, we are um like the third wave Norwegian black metal," and they post that on a Reddit group that is dedicated to that kind of thing, um, it can be helpful to get eyes on you to be like, "Oh, I sound like all of your favorite bands." And that's helpful to gain some initial notoriety. It's very difficult once you get past that level of it's very creatively limiting to be like, I only do this one specific thing, because I won't speak for all musicians, but I think we all contain multitudes, right? Like, we all do a bunch of different things. Like, I have several musical projects across several different styles. Like, I don't want to only do one thing. And so it's very limiting to say, we're the true Floridian death metal or whatever. And that doesn't happen as much in death metal, but um it's limiting. It's helpful to gain attention. It's bad for everything else, really.
Yeah. Well, so even when I created this podcast, I initially was just gonna make it a bookish podcast,
Mhm.
and I'm glad that I slept on it and I threw the "and beyond" into the title because it's like I don't wanna limit myself in the future sometime someday, and I've had I've had content creators on who make watch content. I've had photographers on and anything that people are interested in, I'm interested in learning about people's
Mhm.
passions. I mean, that's a big part of where this podcast came from is I got injured in 2017 and spent years at home kind of like isolated on my own little island and felt like I didn't have passion for anything anymore.
Mhm,
And in like the last 2 years, I've been making a conscious effort to find new passions because I can't do the things I used to be able to do. And connecting with other people and hearing about their passions has been a really cool way to find more passion for the stuff that I do like and find, kind of common ground with people.
mhm,
And I think that I don't know, I'm 10 months into this podcast. I don't know if I would have stuck with it this long if it was strictly only books. And it is very book heavy. Most guests are in the bookish space, but it turns out that most people in the bookish space also have other cool stuff that they're into.
mhm.
People have more than one hobby, and it's like it I would imagine with music it's the same thing too, is that even people who like death metal also like, the Thriller album by Michael Jackson or,
Love
some pop
ABBA.
stuff or yeah, ABBA's super fun.
Mhm,
And it's like a lot of times too, I think of different bands where people will compare their later in life work to their first work, and it's like, well, like even someone like Green Day, where it's like, okay, I started listening to them in 1994 when I was 10 years old,
Dookie.
and I'm 41 now. Is
Yeah.
they made the same music now and they hadn't grown or evolved at all, I would be concerned for their well-being. Like,
Mhm,
they've all gotten married, had kids, and also they're not struggling musicians anymore. So it's like it would be weird and disingenuous for them to talk as if they were.
mhm.
Like I've seen
Yeah.
that that's a lot in hip hop too, where it's like Jay-Z doesn't live in the projects anymore. He's going to be talking about different things, and he would kind of be dishonest if he still tried to have the exact same lyrics as 1997.
Mhm. Like, I like Eminem quite a lot, and, like, if you listen to the lyrics across the Marshall Mathers LP, the Slim Shady LP, I forget the Eminem Show, like, and just the way that he talks about his daughter, like, as he gets older across the other albums, it's just yeah, a good example of he's a different person, his priorities change, like yeah, I mean, progression and evolution is part of being human, and anybody who's been in the game for 15 years and is making the same music is probably stagnated and
Yeah.
is repeating. Yeah. And I think a lot of people who really heavily tie themselves into a music genre are not really tying themselves into the music genre so much as they're tying themselves into an identity that's related to the aesthetic of that genre. Like, again, you're a little older than me, so I don't know if this was a thing for you, but do you remember, like, the MySpace scene phase of,
Oh, yeah,
like,
for
oh
sure.
05 through, like, '09 or maybe, like, '04 through '09? All of that
Yeah.
music was hot garbage, and I
Yeah.
don't care anyone I don't believe anybody who's like, "No, no, I like that." Like, no, no, no. You liked the aesthetics of the community that liked that music. That's it. Nobody liked Attack Attack, okay? Nobody did. Or Dr. Acula or the first Bring Me the Horizon album. Nobody liked that crap. It was awful. But what they liked was the big swoopy bangs with like platinum blonde and like the shadow underneath and the bows and everybody wearing girl pants with white belts. Like nobody actually liked the music? Um, so yeah, that same thing still happens.
Yeah, I got into emo a little bit later. I did listen to some of it, mostly because of, someone I dated at the time. She was super, super heavy into emo. She was a couple years younger than me,
Mhm.
and it's like I liked some of the music, but I would just kind of cherry pick the good songs and
Yeah.
did not get as heavy into it as they did. And I enjoy it a lot now because it's nostalgic. It's fun
Mhm.
to look back and hear some of that stuff. But yeah, there was also a lot of people who made that sound specifically just to try and
Mhm.
break through and make some money.
Yeah,
And
cashing in on a niche.
there was a lot of I mean it happens with every genre, but there was a lot of posing where it was just like people who were not remotely f- true fans of the genre just trying to make themselves sound more like that to
Yep,
sell records,
yep,
which leads to usually pretty bad music.
mhm,
Now,
yep.
you're in, if I remember correctly, you're in 2 different bands currently?
Publicly, yes.
Oh, okay.
I have
No.
other stuff that I, am either not attributed to by choice, or are not released yet. But so the 2 bands that you're thinking of, yes.
Yeah, and you've recently just went on a little tour over the summer with one of them, if I remember correctly as well.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, we did a
S
2-week West Coast tour with Wheel to Well.
No, if you wanna tell the listeners a little bit about the 2 bands and, kinda what the deal with those is. I've checked them both out on Apple Music before.
Sure. So, I have 2 bands. I have a band called By Fire and Sword, which is, um, a without getting into, like, genre specifics, it's power metal. It's kind of a, uh, Pentecostal Southern church tent revival take on something that sounds somewhere like Iron Maiden, Dragon Force, uh, something like that. Big hooks, fast drums, fast guitars. It's very poppy vocally. It's like the metal version of pop music a lot of the time. And then I have another band called Wield and Woe, which is we call it castle metal. So the idea is that it's the metal version of like medieval tavern music. It's big orchestrations, medieval style harmonies and arrangements. It is harsh vocals. It is a subgenre of black metal. So it's not going to be for everybody because it can be dark and fast and aggressive a lot of times, but it's also I think frequently very bright and beautiful and harmonic with a lot of interesting composition. And I'm allowed to say that because I write 90% of it. Um, but so yeah, those are the 2 bands that publicly I am attributed to or working with. And yeah, Wield and Woe generally does about a tour every year. We just released an album this year, so we did a 2-week tour to support that album once it came out.
Yeah, I showed my daughter when you first shared or the first time I saw you share on TikTok, about the bands. I showed her a video of Wheeled and Woe, and I was like, "You gotta check this out." I was like, "I think this might be your vibe with" because she doesn't love or she didn't at least love clean vocals as much. She wanted,
Yeah,
um I think she's growing out of that a little bit. Well, she's real secretive with her music taste. She won't tell me all of it. Every now and then, she'll take the aux in the car, and I get a peek, but, like, she doesn't wanna tell me all of it.
sure. Yeah,
But
it's
she
a very cool high school thing to be into music that's aggressive and angsty, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's also cool to not tell your dad or to find out that your dad likes some of the stuff that you I think that's pretty much
Yeah.
if I say I like something, it's pretty much done for.
This is not cool anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which is probably why she won't even give this a chance at all.
she'd probably like it if she did.
I think so too, because I do think that there's elements that she would like. Now, how long have you, been touring with your bands?
Wield and Woe has been touring since 2021, I think was our first tour. And then By Fire and Sword is a primarily a studio project, so it's me and one other collaborator who lives in, the Midwest. So we don't really do anything in person, anymore. We used to both live, um, in Boise and Idaho, and then we have both since moved, so it's, uh, a long distance collaboration anymore. Um, but yeah, a handful of years. Ever since so our first Wild and Woe album came out in 2020, and pretty shortly after that, we started getting some notoriety and started touring.
That's very cool. I also had, Evan Lycom on, and he wrote Angie Kills a King, and he's fairly big on BookTok, and he was telling me on the podcast that he actually started writing initially because he was in a touring band, and he spent so much time in the back of a van reading fantasy. He's like, "You know what? I think I've read enough of these. I could try writing one now."
I'll have to deep dive on him because I don't he doesn't strike me as a musician, but maybe now that I think about it, maybe I'm missing some cues.
He was a drummer.
Oh, that's why.
Yeah, I don't know if he's ever publicly said what the name of the band was.
I'll
I
find
think I have it somewhere. Yeah. Well, because it was in his Discord. I know the name, but I'm not remembering it right in the second. But yeah, I think he toured for a while with them. It was
mhm.
an indie rock band, I believe.
That strikes he doesn't strike me as an aggressive music guy.
No, he's a very cool guy in general. It's interesting how many authors I've had on who have a musical background too.
I think
There's been
there
quite a
is
few.
a strong thread among creatives where we don't tend to be, um, like, what's the word? Like, monotheistic to our genre. to our art, it's like
Yeah.
if you call content creation creative, I do because there's a lot of creative stuff that I do, but it's like I'm also very into photography and I'm very into videography. I'm not an artist, I wish I was, but I like music, I have written poetry. So it's like I think people who have the creative bone find multiple outlets for it.
Yeah, and I would agree with that, and I'm someone who I would say that I'm discovering within the last 2 years that I am a creative person because for my whole life up until recently, I put creativity, and this was 100% a me thing. I put creativity in such a small box where you had to be an artist. You had to draw, paint, like more of the traditional art forms that people would
Mhm.
think of. And it's like my daughter's very much in that box. She is very good at painting. She's been drawing her whole life. She's gotten into digital art the last couple of years too. And I never had that. Like I can barely draw a stick figure. And it's always been that way. So I didn't think of myself as a creative person. But then I look back and part of it is like it's like, oh man, so many missed opportunities. But I'm so happy to be discovering it nonetheless. But I took photography class 1 and 2 in high school with film photography, where we had darkroom and developed our own um, film and prints. And I took a jewelry making class in high school. I took ceramics. I took silk screening. I took every art class that our school had to offer. And then for 25 years, just thought of myself as not creative. And it's like,
Right.
man, you're kind of dumb with this one. It's like the only person who didn't realize it, I think, was me. And
Yeah.
one of my ways into finding out that I like being creative is content creation. Like I said, I spent years watching TikTok, never thinking I would make a single TikTok. I had
Sure.
no desire to. And then I watched so many people in the book space, and I was like, I saw communities forming. And to me, I felt like if I created content as well, it would be easier to kind of join into those communities.
Mhm.
So that was my initial reasoning for it, and I have made some fantastic friends and met some of them in real life through content creation. And I would also consider it's a type of art. It's a very modern one. It's not something people would have thought of 20 years ago, really.
Right. Well, yeah,
But there's
'cause
so many aspects of it that are creative, which like videography, which is something I'm trying to get into. I filmed my very first vlog ever yesterday, just posted it today. I went to Manhattan and brought my camera and just wandered around taking pictures.
Mhm.
And I've always been into photography on and off, and I'm just getting back into it this year. I didn't have a camera for years, and through the generosity of people on BookTok, they donated money for my birthday back in April so that I could buy a camera.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely an art form. And it's like I don't know because it's like a gadget technically, and not holding a paintbrush or a pencil. I just didn't see it that way, which is so silly. And it's like that was really me limiting myself. But
It takes input. It takes, like, so the thing I think that people forget about content creation or videography is there's a human behind there making choices, and that's what
yeah,
makes it creative. You're choosing what the picture's of. You're adjusting the light level. You're adjusting the focus, If you just, like, if the camera just automatically did it for you, I mean, is it art? Whatever. Is AI art? Whatever. But yeah, you giving input into the process is creation. It's the same way that, like, I think cooking, I don't is cooking an art? I don't know. Cooking is creative as hell,
yeah,
like,
absolutely.
it's like, I don't I mean, I'm not a great chef, but I think about, like, when I'm cooking and combining things, it's crafting, and I think crafting is creative. I think people who like blacksmiths who makes, custom swords and daggers are just as creative as people who make movies or people who, paint, the Sistine Chapel or whatever. Like, it's all creation. It's all art.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that. And I think even back to high school is like um, I played in the band for a while.
Mhm.
Um, and again, still somehow missed like Jason was clueless about what
A lot of
creativity
people
was.
who say that they are not creative are very creative. They just have a limited idea of what it means to be an artist because artist in itself is such like a finicky and, um, convoluted and sort of like jaded term. I think that people use like, "I'm an artist," like, whatever. So I like to use creative, but
Yeah.
it's the same thing. Like, I think everybody is in some way. Like, my wife loves to decorate. I think interior decoration is, again, I think art, whatever, is creative. She's decorating our house. She's giving our house a look, a vibe, an aesthetic, and it changes the feel of the house. Like, every fall, like we just pulled out the Halloween tote today. Like, so tomorrow it's going to be chaos, but it'll feel like a different house when we're done. And like
Yeah.
that's just creative.
Yeah, and I think everyone does have usually something that they are, creative with. And
Mhm,
even in most jobs, there is an element of creativity that's required to be good at it.
mhm. People who restore cars, that's creative.
Yep.
You paint them, you detail them, you made the choices about the rims and the tires, and that's all creative.
Now before making book talk content, had you made, any type of content before? You have very fantastic videos. If someone is listening and hasn't seen your content yet, they should go check it out. In particular, your behind the scenes video the other day, I think was extremely well done to show, kind of the back end of how your videos are so high quality.
Thank
But
you.
did did you do any content creation with your bands or anything like that before you got into book talk content?
Attempted half-heartedly, mostly out of some sort of social media enforced obligation that, like, I needed to. Like, if we're gonna be a band on the internet, we have to have photos and videos and stuff like that. So I would, like, fart out a playthrough video or, like, some stuff every now and then, but it really wasn't until I got into, doing book talk that I had any sort of desire to make band content, because I do make a lot of band stuff. Like, when we were on tour, I filmed every day of the tour. I filmed, like, a documentary of that day, and so right now I'm piecing those together and releasing them, and I don't know. I think part of it is that I found that I was good at it, and that encouraged me to do more. Funny how that works.
Yeah.
But, I think a lot of it is that I also have, beyond the artistic implication of the content creation, I'm also very interested in the technical aspects. Like, so I'm one of those people who, like, I was like, okay, I'm good at making videos with my phone. For like the first year, all of my TikToks were made with my phone. And you could tell because some of them looked really crappy. And then I learned about lighting and I learned about framing and good editing. Like, I used to edit in the TikTok app and now I don't. And that's why I have, like, all these lights. Like, there's a light behind me, there's a light over here you can't see, like, I have a key light that's not directly in front of me, like, so I learned about filmmaking, and I learned about how cameras work, and so, I don't know, I liked the technical aspect because it enabled more creativity. If I learned why a camera did something, or what the result of adjusting the ISO on a camera, the white balance or the aperture or whatever that did, then I could recreate it with an artistic effect rather than it me it being me not knowing how to change that on the camera or what it meant. So, um, same thing with, like, I wanted to learn how pickups and guitars are wired, or, like, what's the difference between a condenser microphone or a dynamic microphone. I could tell you if you want, but it is, I don't know, I like the technical aspects of the process of creation. I feel like it's just another tool in as much as, like, music theory is to me?
Yeah, that makes sense. That like audio is actually something that I need to get better at, and um this is not as nice of a microphone as yours there because I mean, I always forget the 2 names of them. What is it? It's, condenser and dynamic,
Correct.
and yours is I always mix them up.
This is dynamic.
Yeah, mine's a condenser. It's one of
Quality.
um, it was affordable, and it plugs directly into the phone, and it got me started. But audio is something that I would like to learn more about as I go. I'm trying to learn more about videography as well, and they kind of go hand in hand if you wanna make any type of videos at all. Whereas, like, I think that the type of, like, documentary, like you were saying with your band, that's something that would interest me more. I know some people very much wanna get into, like, cinema photography or videography and make movies, and I don't have a ton of interest in that, but I think making a mini documentary someday would be so cool, and it's like, I want to acquire the skills to be able to do that, and
And
video and audio are the probably the two biggest things. Lighting goes along with the videography, but
Yeah, in terms of making a video, the 3 components would be, audio, video, and the lighting. Video, surprisingly, is the least important. You
yeah.
need like if you have good audio, you're already winning. You're already beating 80% of people who are making content on TikTok. The second is lighting. Really all you need to make, a million subscriber TikTok account is your phone. The camera on
Yeah.
your phone is amazing. The problem is that everybody uses the front camera, which is the worst camera. I'm not sure about Android because I'm not an Android guy, but the the quality between your selfie camera and your back camera is stupid different. And everyone's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
"But I want to be able to see myself." So I'm gonna make a video about how to use your back camera and still see yourself. But it's like the quality on your 3-year-old iPhone is good enough. You do not need to buy a camera. You need to know how to use your camera and how to set it up for success. And one of the things that I'm actually starting to play with more, and if you go back and watch my channel, you can see where I've tried it and it didn't work out. So I stopped doing it for a little bit and I tried it again and it didn't work out. So I stopped doing it, is I'm working on different styles of book talk content that isn't just talking head. So much book talk content is just, "Hi, I'm Jeff. I read this book. Let's talk about this book." And that's fine. A lot of people make a living off of that. "This book is fire. Oh my God, read this book." And that's fine. But I want to do other things. I want to do something different. I've already, like, in my opinion, I'm already good at the talking head video. I do them a lot. I get a decent amount of views on them. People pay me to make them. That's fine. I'm going to do other things. So right now I'm chasing this idea of cinematic book reviews, in which have that film style B-roll with the voiceover on top, and different locations and stuff. So it's not just me sitting there talking to you about a book. And part of the problem with that is that I'm one person and I do all of this myself. So it's really hard to like line up my own shots and check that I'm in focus and do all that stuff. So I'm learning. So you can see, like, if you go back and watch my Black Tongue Thief review from like June, I tried. It went way, way wrong. It's not good. So I stopped and I was like, okay, I'm going to figure out how to do this. I'm going to try again. So, it's something I'm chasing. That, like, I don't think a lot of people realize that there are different styles of book talk content. Like, a vlog is very different from a documentary.
Yeah.
It's functionally the same information. It's all about the presentation. Whereas like most book talk content, when it's not like a day in the life, let's go shopping at Barnes and Noble, but like reviews, the TBR list videos, that's all just talking head content.
Yep.
And it's repetitive, and as a creative, I'm getting a little tired of it. So I'm trying to push myself in other directions, and a lot of that was learning about lighting, learning how to get audio when I'm 10 feet from the camera, how to edit myself in my software so that it looks nice, and just all that stuff. So it never hurts to learn, but really all you need is your phone.
Yeah, it's like I filmed the podcast. Initially, I used the webcam in my MacBook,
Mhm.
and then now Apple has it so that your phone can be used as your camera. So my phone is sitting on top of my laptop screen right now, and I'm using the back cameras to
Oh, it
film my
looks great.
podcast.
Yeah.
And it's a dark room, and I'm controlling the lighting 100% with my own lights. That's the biggest thing I learned too. Is like close the curtains. Natural light is good if you have no other light, but if you have decent lights, you want to be able to control all aspects of it.
Yeah, and well, and there's a lot of things where it's like, for a podcast or a vlog or something like that, where it seems like your light is probably either directly in front of you or slightly off to the side from where you are.
Yeah,
Like that's
I have
yeah,
slightly off to the left.
yeah, yeah. Um, Whereas like, if you were doing something that was more cinematic, you'd want a more extreme angle and
Yeah.
maybe a little something behind you.
Yeah,
And
I always throw the color just so there's a little bit of division because I'm so close to the wall that I can't get like you have a little bit of space between you and the bookshelf, which is always super helpful. I don't think people
mhm.
realize how much that little bit of space creates layers to your video and makes it
Well,
less.
and I always put a little light right here. You can see it shining on the Skyrim thing right now. Normally I turn off this corner light, but because it's an interview, I left it on.
Yeah.
But yeah, even just lighting, like the camera on your phone is so good. It just is, you got to give it the right things to work with and how to put it in the right place. But yeah, having the light off to the side is a big help, especially for like if I wear glasses, like if I turn and I face my light, it's
Yeah,
just
the
all
reflection is
there.
gonna be killer.
But if I'm off to the side, it's not as big of a deal.
And I've noticed in with book talkers, that wear glasses, they run into that a lot because I think that kind of the progression with book talk content is then you start with natural light and then you eventually get a ring light.
Everybody buys a
And
ring light, and then in your glasses, it's just the giant it's terrible.
and the ring lights, they are good, but they're not good if you have
They're
glasses,
not
and they're not good for, making more interesting lighting because,
almost
like,
everyone uses their ring light wrong. Like,
yeah.
they think they put their because they all come with the phone mount that goes right in the middle of the ring, so they sit there and they just have the heat of the sun blasting their face. It's like, "No, no, you gotta turn it down." Like, there's ways to do this, but
Yeah, the lighting is its own kind of art form with this, and
mhm,
there's people who specialize in just doing lighting, and cinematic lighting is very cool, and it's something that I wanna get better at as well, and, I would like to get better lights at some point. I have a cheap LED panel for right now, and
mhm,
it's working, it's doing fine for the podcast, but it's not as great for trying to get a more cinematic shot, and,
mhm.
like, if you make it has an option for warm light, but then it gets way too warm, and then it just looks
Like
yellow.
orange, yeah.
Yeah, it's not ideal.
Mm,
Um, but I definitely I do think like I filmed the whole vlog yesterday on my phone because I was outside, so there's plenty of light. And the point of the vlog was I was taking pictures, so I didn't want to have to, keep setting it up to be able to film myself.
right.
And my only regret is that I filmed it vertically for TikTok, and then I was like, well, I kind of want to upload it to YouTube as well. And it works on a phone, but nowhere else. But
Yeah.
it's super fun process. It's a 4 minute, 10-second vlog.
Mhm.
Never made one before. It's really fun to try new things though, and that's something that I'm really having to push myself as well with because I've figured out throughout my life that I'm a bit of a perfectionist.
Sure.
And when I'm not an expert in 2 weeks, I'm like, I'm done with this. It's like a really bad way to get good at anything. It's to
I
give up
spend
when you're not
so
an
much
expert.
time at YouTube University, dude. That's how I
Oh, me
learned how
too.
to do everything. Everything I've learned about, cameras, lighting, um, how like video editing stuff, hours and hours and hours of YouTube tutorials of people showing me how to do it. And then now people ask me how to do it. And I'm like, you guys are crazy. Go watch YouTube. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I spent years being very fixated on gear in,
mhm,
like, my early digital photography career, like, in 2012-ish,
it's you. It's
and
the camera. It's you.
cameras help once you know how to use them. But it's
Mhm,
like now, like, I got my daughter a, Canon 5D Classic. It's got
mhm,
no features, it's a 20-year-old camera.
yeah,
And I steal it every now and then, and I go play with it because it's full frame and you can I've never had a full frame camera myself. I've always had crop sensors, which is fine for videography, and now they're so good that it doesn't really even matter. Like, my Fujifilm is more capable in low light than her full frame
sure.
because, technology bridges the gap, but it's fun to go back and it's like you really have to be the one doing the correct things because there's not a processor in it that's gonna make up for your mistakes. It's
Right.
I
There's no
That's why I got it
forgiveness.
for her. See, I learned on a 20-year-old film camera, and I was like, if she wants to learn, because she does, it's like, I'm gonna get her a 20-year-old camera where she has to learn, the exposure triangle, and she has to figure out how to get good at that and know what these different things mean because cameras are so good now. And I think the main issue people run into with iPhones is not understanding that the sensor is tiny. The smaller your sensor, the less amount of light can get on it in, short amounts of time, which pictures are they're fractions of seconds. So
Mhm.
the bigger your sensor is, the more light gets in with that fraction of a second. So you can shoot a professional level movie on an iPhone.
Oh, yeah.
The
It
quality
all
is there. You just have to have the lighting to back that up. Because it's
mhm.
like shows like House, they shot that on a Canon 7D, which is a crop sensor camera from I don't know, maybe 15 years ago,
Mhm.
and it's like, if you go watch House, there's no quality issues, it looks fantastic.
Mhm.
It's because they have good lighting.
Mhm. Yeah. The cool thing I do like about full frame though is if you frame it right, you could do your YouTube and your TikTok off the same clip and just the way that you edit it, but nobody cares about that.
Well, that's part of why I went with the camera that I have now. I got a Fujifilm X-S20, which is a hybrid camera, and it can shoot, 6.2K open gate
Ooh.
and it uses the entire sensor, so you can shoot horizontal and vertical video at the same time,
Yeah, it's
just
gonna be
depending on how you
framers
crop it.
back in the rule
Yep.
of thirds. How you get both.
And that's exactly why I was looking at a Sony as well, and I didn't go with that because it didn't have That and also I just like the color science of Fuji over Sony.
Mhm.
And nowadays, I mean, any mirrorless camera is way way more capable than sorry, way more capable than professional level full frames from like 10 years ago.
Mhm. They've taken
Yep.
all of the guesswork out of them in a lot of places so that most
Yeah.
people can pick them up. I was saying in that video where I was showing about how I make videos, people really underestimate how much software is happening in the background of the camera app on your phone. Like,
Oh yeah.
it's so much software in the background, like, making sure your photo looks good. The what you're putting into it is, like, this much. It's
Yeah. If
insane.
anyone saw raw photos from like a wedding, for example,
Mhm,
they would think they were terrible and they would think that the photographer should never be hired. And it's because the cameras automatically, when you shoot a JPEG or when you shoot video on a camera, even if you're not shooting in log,
mhm.
it's going to be super flat because it's just capturing all the information in like a generic way. And then it's up to you to go in and tweak that how you want because there's so much more information that can be shown on, a computer screen at one time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like when you hit snap on your phone, it's adjusting the white balance, the exposure, the ISO, it's correcting all the color, it's
Yep.
applying whatever stupid filter you put on front of it, like, your phone's doing all the work for you, unless you're
And then
a pro who knows how to manipulate all the
And then
parameters.
even now, it's like I have an iPhone 15 Pro Max that has 3 lenses. So it's actually it can take information from multiple sensors and instantly combine them to
Mhm.
get different information from each one. And the software instantly combines that and it makes all those choices for you
Yeah,
in
it's like
terms of
I love explaining to people, it's like because I just have the base 15, and it's like, this takes 48 megapixel pictures. It does not have a 48 megapixel camera. It is a
yeah,
24 megapixel camera, and it uses both lenses and
yep.
combines the info, thus 48
y-
megapixels.
Yeah, it stacks the images on top of each other.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, it's like the science that they come up with on these camera phones is crazy. I was watching foolishly the Apple keynote from when they released the 17 Pro, and I was like, "I'm tempted." All the cameras are 48 megapixels now or something like
I
that, and
did see that too.
I was like, "Yo, I'm real tempted to, like, sell my cameras and just upgrade my iPhone and not worry about it anymore." 'Cause there's a very interesting philosophical thing that I have with making videos on my phone, is that the amount of input and the amount of friction that I face creatively and technically from when I pick up my phone to shoot a video to when I'm done editing it, it's the easiest process by sure, by far. I meant to say for sure. Like, when I make videos on my phone, it is the fastest and it is the easiest. Then, like, right now I'm using my Sony as my webcam, which I like using because it's somewhere between, like, my cinematic Canon camera and somewhere between my iPhone. It's, like, in the middle. Um, it's more of a process. I have to
Yeah,
do more color grading. I have to do more correction, whatever. And then versus when I make films with or videos with my, uh, my bootleg firmware Canon camera that shoots, cinema DNG files, it's way more work. Like,
yeah.
the video looks awesome, but it is way more work to make the video. And so, there is a very nice thing for creators in just having that good of a camera in your pocket as it decreases the amount of friction in the process. But
Yeah, and
I
it
don't know.
it lets you focus on the creative aspect of it, the actual creation part. I had a guest on last week. He is a newer TikTok creator that creates photography centric content, and he was talking about making art for the medium, and he kind of made me rethink how I look at photography and videography too, because I was talking about how I catch myself shooting way too many vertical pictures
Mm.
in recent years because there's this subconscious thought of like, "Oh, this will be way easier to put on Instagram
Instagram.
or anything like that." And he made a great point where he's like, "That's where a lot of media is being consumed now." So he's like, "I don't think there's anything wrong with making art for, your audience. If they're on a certain app, then creating for them isn't necessarily a bad thing." And I think that the iPhone lends itself to that very easily because most people are watching on a phone,
Mhm.
and it does take out a lot of the extra steps. And also, I don't think people realize how much TikTok and Instagram super compress your images and your video. you're not gonna get the highest quality 4K on TikTok. It's just that's why I've started uploading, like, I upload a lot of stuff in 1080 because once it's in Instagram or
Gotta
TikTok,
be
you can
1080
tell the
anyways.
difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah, it's like if I upload
it's
4K TikTok, TikTok shows me 1080. It's not 4K.
and it also it seems to make it worse than if you just shoot in 1080
Mhm.
because the compression factor does something to it that makes it look a little bit fuzzy.
Yeah,
So I think that there's something, like you said, you're lessening your workflow, which allows you to be more creative, and you're also kind of just creating something that's more meant for the medium that people are going to see the artwork, the creation. If you
right.
you know if you don't want to call it artwork, whatever content creation is, like you said, it's a fine line. But
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I think the 17 is tempting. I just got mine. I usually get iPhones a year after they come out
Yeah.
to save a little bit of money, and I went from the 10R to the
Oh.
15 Pro, so
You skipped a number of years.
I
The
I went, like, 5 years though. It got to the point where I couldn't go a full hour without it being plugged in, and I was like, "That's probably not safe."
That's enough time.
Like, I was out in the car a lot doing, like, DoorDash, and it's like, I should probably have a phone that works reliably.
Yeah. The thing that has me the most tempted about the 17 Pro is that it shoots ProRes log.
Yeah, that's
And
super helpful.
I'm like, "Yo," like, the camera quality on this, and this is 2 years or 3 years old at this point, is still amazing. I
Yeah,
have no qualms with the quality, but I can't shoot to SSD, which anyone with a 15 Pro or any Pro model after the 15 can shoot to an external. So I have to save everything to my phone here, and I can't shoot ProRes and I can't shoot log. But if I could shoot ProRes log, sold. Like, that's
yeah,
amazing.
that's huge for your workflow,
Yeah,
and
especially as
it
someone who
opens up.
cares about color grading and,
Yeah.
applying LUTs and, like, playing with that. Like, I really shoot for, like a filmic, soft, cinematic look as much as possible, and most people are not trying to do that, but just having the ProRes log is, like, amazing in a phone.
Yeah, color grading is on my list of things that I wanna learn. I need to shoot more video. I have the camera now, and every time I go out, I just take pictures, and I really enjoy taking pictures, so it's not necessarily a problem, but it's like, I do wanna get better at videography, and the only way to do that is by doing. I
Yeah,
need to start taking more clips and making B-roll for videos that are never gonna get posted anywhere just to practice.
yeah. Yeah, even just, like, I go out with, like, my wife on the weekends, and I shoot so much stuff that no one ever sees just because I wanna practice, like, I wanna see what this looks like, or a lot of the time, I will learn how to do something in as much as I can make a preset out of it. So, like, all of my presets in DaVinci for color grading or all of my color grades in DaVinci are just presets that I now drag onto a clip because I spent an hour, like, figuring out how I want that to look. So it's like if I shoot something on my Sony in my room with my normal lighting, I know the pre-built preset to put on that. If I shoot something with my Canon outside, I have one that I'm like, I know that I like this because I don't want to sit down every time and like tweak the exposure, tweak the black level, how saturated it is. I don't want to do that every time. I want to find one that I like and use repeatedly. So yeah, and so much of
Yeah,
that is just shooting different scenarios and finding out what works the best.
I did similar to that, but with pictures years ago with Lightroom, where I most of my photography was street photography in New York City.
Mhm.
And granted, the lighting changes, but it's like I could get close enough with presets. It's like I know that I want my street photography to look like vaguely like this.
Mhm.
And then you fine tune it from there. But it's like if you can get 85% of the way there with the click of one button through a preset,
Yeah.
it you're gonna be way more motivated to do it because it can bog you down if you have to individually do it with every video or every photo where you have to start from 0.
If I had to color grade every video separately every time, I would stop. I would not.
Yeah.
I would quit
You
shooting raw footage.
yeah. Yeah, then that's one thing I have noticed with Fujifilm is I do shoot a lot of JPEGs because the film simulations are pretty good,
Mhm.
where it's like and you can tweak them, you can customize them, and it's like, "Oh, okay, cool." Like, I have one that I'm working on, and I haven't perfected it yet, but it's like I have it set up to throw out JPEGs from the camera that look the way I want street shots to look.
Mhm.
Again, technology is pretty cool in that aspect.
Yeah. Yeah, if I had to do it manually every time, I would not do it.
Yeah, I do enjoy editing photos, but I don't wanna have to edit every single photo from 0 every time.
Yeah, if something gets me most of the way there, I can tweak a parameter or 2, I don't care.
Yeah.
But if I had to do it from process all the time,
I'm still trying to figure out DaVinci. I went with DaVinci specifically because I've read that it's better once you learn more about color grading, so I've
it's amazing.
barely dipped my toes. Yeah, free was also the right price because
Yeah.
I'm not making any money off of this podcast yet, so everything about this is free. The software we're recording on right now is free,
Mm,
and I've run into some issues with it, but it works most of the time,
yeah.
and it gives me good enough quality for what I need.
Mhm.
Same with the microphone. Like, I don't need a new microphone yet, but I wanna learn more about audio so that when it comes time to upgrade, I know how to use it.
Right. And one of my favorite things about DaVinci is there's a huge online community. There's a million YouTube videos. Anything that you're like, "I don't know how to do this," YouTube it. Someone will
Well,
have a
they
video
they have their own educational videos too.
that they do. Yep.
I've watched quite a few of those. I forget the guy's name. He's a little dry, like, gotta keep myself awake for him, but they're super informative. He's a little bit monotone in the delivery, but they're very good videos.
Mhm. Well, and I love that DaVinci's made by Blackmagic, who makes
Yeah.
cameras. And
Yep.
so like there also is the Blackmagic camera app for iPhone, which is like a pro app. Like it'll let you change parameters that the native camera app will not let you change.
Yeah.
And you can shoot, I think you can shoot raw, like Blackmagic raw in the Blackmagic app. And
Oh, I didn't realize that.
yeah, it's like way deep. I stick
Very
to the
cool.
general camera app anymore just because I have my presets in DaVinci and I don't need all the extra parameters. But it's, yeah, the Blackmagic camera app is awesome.
I'll have to check that out just to play around with it. That sounds kinda
Mhm.
fun.
Yeah, you can change everything.
That's very cool. Alright, now, we could probably wrap this up. I usually try and keep the episodes about an hour. We're at an hour and a half already. Maybe we'll have to do this
Whoops.
again someday because there's endless stuff we could talk about. Now you have a Bookish Instagram and a TikTok. Is there anywhere else that I should link to where people can find your content?
YouTube as well.
Okay. I'll make sure I throw all of those links in the description.
Mhm.
If for some reason you don't already follow Jeff, you should go give him a follow on BookTok. The reviews are fantastic. The quality is always there. And there's some really funny ones too. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in again and taking a little bit of time out of your week to join me on Books and Beyond with that guy, Jay. I will see you next week.